In Philippians 3, verse 14, it says, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Just as you are thrusting your hips forward, pushing through the challenge of this exercise, remember that you are called to press on toward the goal of deepening your relationship with Jesus Christ. Don't give up. Even when the journey gets tough, keep pushing forward, knowing that God has called you heavenward in Christ Jesus. In other words, you are called towards heaven in Christ Jesus. You're making progress, and He's with you every step of the way. I'm Roman Hunter. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the hip thrust exercise. Now, the hip thrust exercise is a hinge type exercise. It primarily targets your glutes. It involves some hamstrings as well as some amount of core stability. Because you have to really tense and, engage your core if you want to do this exercise properly. Now, again, specifically for your glutes, there are different variations to this exercise. What I have here is a resistance band. So you can do this exercise at home. You can probably find a bed. I'm using a bench right here. You can use a bed, you can use a couch, you can use a hassock of some sort. I have a resistance band. I'm using a light resistance band. I use this color so that you can see it properly against my black pants. And what you're going to do is anchor the ends down, all right? So you can use a barbell. If you're in a gym, you can use a barbell. You can put a plate on your hip as well and perform the hip thrust with the plate, or you can use a dumbbell and perform the same hip thrust with a dumbbell, or many people use barbells, or there are even actually machines for hip thrusts, right? But this can be done at home. It can be done by all ages. It can be done anywhere. If you have a band, or you can use a resistance tube, you can just anchor it around your waist. So I have a plate. So I'm going to anchor one end of the band under this plate here, and the other end is anchored on the other side, and the band is across my waist, right? Now you're going to go up on the bench and make sure just the upper back. You don't want to go all the way up like this so that the head hangs off. You just want to go just the upper back at the level of your shoulder blades, and you can just prop yourself up with your elbows like that, just to make sure that the upper back is supported. With regards to the legs, feet about shoulder width apart. And you want to make sure that when you thrust up like that, the legs are more or less vertical down here, right? You're not supposed to be out like this. You're not supposed to be too far in like that. You're supposed to be about vertical. Feet shoulder width apart. Okay? Feet flat on the floor. And what you're going to do is go down a little bit with your hips and thrust up. That's just a hip thrust, because you're thrusting upwards towards the ceiling. And when you thrust upwards, you want to tighten the glutes, tighten your butt, and down. It's a good exercise to strengthen your glutes. It's a good exercise to strengthen your hamstrings. It really helps with regards to core. It helps with your posture. It helps with athletic performance. It helps with regards to mobility, stability, and support of your pelvis as well, because you're strengthening the gluteus maximus, pretty much the gluteal group of muscles. All right? It also helps to give that nice rounded contour of your butt, of the glutes. It's a wonderful exercise, the hip thrust exercise. So you go down. Some people, you can look down at your knees if you want, and then as you come up, you look up. So as you come down, allow the hip to hinge, allow the hip to sink. You're looking at your knees. So as you come down, you're looking at your knees, and then you're going to thrust up with the hips. Squeeze the glutes and thrust upwards towards the ceiling. And as you thrust upwards, you look up. So as you come down, you look ahead of you, at the level of your knees, and as you come up, you look up at the ceiling. Down, so your whole body moves. Your thorax, your trunk is supposed to be horizontal. Your legs are supposed to be vertical, as you can see down here. Legs are supposed to be facing up, vertical, and you're supposed to be looking up at the ceiling, right? So that's this method. The other method is you just keep looking at your knees. So as you go down, look at your knees. Up, you're still looking at your knees. Down, looking at your knees. Up, still looking at your knees. But if that hurts your neck, you can just follow through with your head. So in other words, as you go down, look ahead of you. And as you come up, look upwards. Down, look ahead of you at the level of your knees. And as you go up, as you thrust up with the hips, you're facing up. So your whole body moves as one unit. It moves as one unit, all right? So that's the other method. So again, the first method is you can just continue looking at your knees. Continue looking at your knees as you perform the hip thrust. The other method is as you thrust up, you look up. So whichever one more convenient for you, that's fine. Whichever one that is more convenient. If you don't have a band, you don't have to use a band. You can separate the band here. If you don't have a band, you can do it without the band as a starter. Again, if you want, you can put some weight on your lap. You can put like a plate, some weighted plates, or a dumbbell. If you have a resistance tube or resistance loop, you can just strap it down across your waist. Or if you want, you can do one leg at a time. So keep one leg up as you perform the hip thrust on one leg. Single leg hip thrust. All right? And again, don't go all the way onto your mid-back like this. Come forward a little bit, just so that your upper back is being supported by your shoulder blade. Just so that your upper back is being supported. Make sure that your feet are about shoulder width apart, feet flat on the floor, and you're hinging at your hips. Hinge at the hips, keeping your upper back in contact with the bench, and then up. You don't have to go all the way down to the floor. Just hinge a little bit, and then up. As you thrust up, tighten the glutes. Down and up. All right, down and up. Don't do this. All right, don't do that. Just take your time. Make sure that the back is supported, your upper back is supported. Go down with the hips like this, and then that. All right? Thrust up like that. So down, and then thrust up. Down, and then thrust up. You can keep your hands on your chest, on your belly. Keep your hands on the bench like that. You can open them out just so you can get more balance. Down, and then thrust up. Boom. As I thrust up, remember to tighten the glutes. Squeeze them together as you up like this. Squeeze them together, and then down. Up, and squeeze them together, and then down. Let's put on back the band. So I have the band here, the yellow band. Anchor it, anchor both ends under the plate. So you have that extra resistance. Press up against the band, and then down. Press up against the band, and then down. Press up against the band, you notice my back is straight, and then down. Press up, and then down. This is the hip thrust. If while performing this exercise, you start to feel a lot of back pain, you may feel a little burning sensation, but that is normal. But if you start to feel increasing pain when performing this exercise, then you can stop from performing this exercise. Otherwise, from that, this exercise is really good to add to your program. It's a nice gluteal activation exercise. And as you increase the weight, it can also help to develop and further tone and form the contours of your gluteal muscles, also known as your butt. Up and then down. Helps with performance, athleticism, helps with your posture, and also helps to reduce lower back pain, as your gluteal muscles help to control your pelvis and stabilize your spine. So I really pray and hope that this exercise really benefits you, and enjoy it. There are different modifications, there are different variations to this. Play around with it, and just as long as you remember the basic positioning, you should be pretty well with this exercise. I'm Roman Hunter. Have a wonderful day. Blessings.